Okay, we have finished assembling our legs, and now we're ready to start the assembly of our legs to our skirts. So right now everything's just kind of loose, you're set in place. If you're jumping into the middle of my video tutorials, I have thrown out the disclaimer out there that this is not to the same proportions as your project. Mine is a little bit narrower. I'm building this one for me, and I kind of got a special spot that I'm tucking this one in that's a little tighter fit. So all the assembly process is the same. A lot of the dimensions are the same, the length, the height. It's just I made things a little bit more narrow. So please follow your instructions, your directions. But as far as how assembly goes and the steps and everything, everything's the same. It's the same parts, same project, just made a couple of things shorter. Anyway, so the next phase in the assembly process is to do this, where we attach the short skirts to two legs, okay? And that's done with these Craig jig holes that we have already drilled. So we already did one, obviously. So now we are going to do the other. So I did that one off camera earlier. So now we're going to do this one. This is the setup that's going to work really well. A orange bar clamp there on the rack of bar clamps there in the lumber storage room is going to work really good for this short skirt side. Even yours that are going to be, you know, this skirt piece is going to be longer on yours. This setup still works just fine. And you're going to need the two legs. And like I said, you make one of those kind of U shapes and you make this U shape. The last thing we do are the long skirts just to one of the U's. We're not going to put this whole thing together next, so don't just assume that and go. If you do that, you'll never get your plywood in. So we definitely follow the sequence. Make one, make the other, attach two longs to one of them, and then we'll stop there, and then we'll get our do some measuring with a dry fit and get our plywood cut. Okay, so this is the setup. I like having this bar clamp hanging off the edge like this. That way there's, you know, the extra metal that's on this side, it doesn't lift up the bar clamp. I want that bar clamp putting pressure right down the center of all of these boards. If I put it up high, it's actually going to flex those legs and these joints are going to bend in. So I like the way that this is set up. We're going to do one side at a time. Make sure you have, I know your counterboards are going to be further apart, but make sure your counterboard holes are on the bottom. Okay, I've seen a lot of people put their projects together like this, where the counterboards are on top. I've also seen this. I'm not sure how they get the screws in, but again, Craig jig holes need to go on the inside of your project. Counterboard holes need to go on the bottom. So, yep, looks good. Okay, so we'll get some glue. We'll clamp that other side into it, even though we're not putting glue in there. I like to not put glue in that one right away because once you put glue down, you got about 10 minutes. And if you struggle, if things don't go perfectly on this first one, you don't want to have that timer going on the second one just yet. Okay, so that looks good. The one thing I want you to make sure you're checking is that the top is flush. Yeah, everything should be up against the bar clamp, should be helping, but just double check that, make sure that's flush. Otherwise, when you put your top on, you're going to get some bad air gaps. Okay, grab your Craig clamp again. Make sure things are... Get that a little tighter, maybe? There we go. All right, so make sure that's flush, that's good. Okay, now I can bring the bar clamp in. That should help with so a little bit of a gap here, but I have a feeling when I tighten that screw down, see the bar clamp is only so far in, so it's doing a little bit of this, so I'm going to put that screw in first. Make sure. So same screws you used for assembling your top. Craig jig holes are for Craig jig screws. There we go. That pulled it tight. Good. Okay, and then I always like to have that square screwdriver for just this manual torque. Again, if you got some air gaps, tightening a little more may be able to pull things together a little bit, but if you get too greedy, you could crack something. So being able to use a hand screwdriver is just really nice for knowing how much torque I'm putting on it. It seems to be coming together a little nicer. Okay, there. So nice and flush, nice and flush. Yeah, that joint looks like it's going to come together good. Okay, again, once the screws are in, that's our long-term hold, so we don't need to leave this clamp on overnight or anything. And turned out pretty well. You know, you might want to take some time with this electric sander and sand things flush on both the outside. Hopefully the top was already good. You could sand the inside a little bit, but for time's sake, we'll move on. So now, we're not going to attach this full thing, so I'll set this over here for now. The next step will be attaching our longs to one of our short ends. So we're going to make a big long U here. Okay, going to be a little bit different as far as how the bar clamps work. Okay. Similar start. So I'm lifting the bar clamp up off the ground because I want it to, this bar represents where the center of the force is, so I want that on the center of the board. So I am lifting that up a little bit. I'm also bringing it a little bit away from the project. And that's because where this threaded shaft is represents where the force is being applied. So I want that right down the line of this board. If I would bring this bar clamp tight against here, it would actually be pushing here, and then it would actually be wanting, this would be down there, and things just wouldn't be in line. Long story short. Okay, make sure the bottom is flush. So down here, make sure that's flush. I was kind of pushing down on the table when I was clamping things. Okay. very tight. There we go. Okay. That's one side. You could swap this clamp over. If you don't have enough bar clamps to go around. I didn't need to. I was just making things fast. Okay. Again, notice our counter bores are all, I guess, facing towards the bottom of the project. We're working upside down right now. Now, okay. Now, when you do the other side, remember this, how this adjusts, this bar clamp, these longer ones have a little spring here. And so when you press down, it releases it. So this one, you can't rest on the table. So when I pick it up, that actually is serving two purposes now. So I gotta pick it up. Come on. There, it's biting. Okay, so again, push everything down. Get that good and tight. Square. And again, I feel the bottom. Make sure that's flush. Not quite happy with that flushness. Not really not. So just trying to get that. There we go. Get good and flush. Get that spacing the same. There we go. Now they're flush. Okay. 2 more screws. Okay. Sweet. Take the bar clamps off. Alright. And we are done. You can tell there's a little bit of a flex there, like that. I don't think you, let's see. You can check that. I have a feeling it's pretty noticeable. Not a big deal though. We can easily fix that because when we put it together, we'll be using the Craig clamps and the bar clamps, and we'll just flex that in and then put the screws in. So my guess is one of these wasn't quite perfectly 90. So they definitely are the same size. So yeah. So it actually will be square when we put that together. So not concerning. So like I said, we'll just do that and then we'll clamp the other one up when we put it together. Okay, so now the next step is going to be to get our bottom piece of plywood cut. We'll use that panel saw over there. We'll take some measurements and get it cut. Put that in and we'll get the bottom attached.